Hey guys, it's Justine. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing a DIY upgrade on my throw pillows, which I got from IKEA. I'm just using a little bit of dye and some white yarn, but you can really use whatever you have around the house. So let's get started. I searched high and low for some pillow options on this project, and it turns out I found that the cheapest ones and the best ones were from IKEA. These are 100% cotton. They are the girly pillows, and they're 20 inches by 20 inches, and we're just gonna throw them in a dye bath and see how it goes. Whenever you're dyeing anything, to keep it easy on yourself, you just wanna look for what the fabric itself is made up of, and usually by getting 100% cotton or any other natural fiber, that's gonna be your easiest bet, so just keep an eye out for that. Okay, so for today's project, I'm gonna go for that kind of burnt orange color that you've been seeing all over Instagram, and I'm using RIT dye. I'm using tangerine, sunshine orange, and a little bit of apple green. I'll link this all below so you don't need to take notes. Okay, so we're starting off with just a bucket of hot water, and we're gonna put a little bit of salt and dish detergent in this. This is all in the back of the RIT dye bottle, and the reason you want it to be hot is because you want all of this to kind of like meld together in there. So it's telling me to add 1 cup of salt, but I'm doing significantly less dye than what the full bottle is calling for, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it and give it a 1/4 cup. Same with the dish detergent, I'm just gonna add a touch. It says a tablespoon per bottle, but we're definitely not using that much. I'm just gonna stir that in so the salt dissolves. I'm gonna kind of eyeball it with these measurements, but if you're making a bunch of different batches where you need to get the same color, then you really should measure it out. But since this is one and done, I'm just gonna kind of guess. Then I'm just gonna use a test piece of fabric to kind of see where we're at. When you're making your first test strip, just make sure to keep it in the dye for a little bit because red is actually gonna be the first dye that attaches to your test strip. So if you pull it out and it looks really red, put it back in and then pull it back out after like 5-10 minutes. Ooh, my spoon. That's hot. Okay, that's really pretty. I'm pretty satisfied with this color, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw my pillowcases in now. Just keep in mind that this will dry a little lighter because it's wet now. It's obviously gonna be darker, but that's kind of something that I've learned along the way. When you're dyeing things, you just wanna make sure you're stirring them enough so that the whole piece of fabric gets saturated. Otherwise, you might end up with little white spots because of air pockets. So you just wanna put it in there and then kind of agitate it, like stir it or, you know, whatever. I'm gonna leave mine in for like 20 minutes, maybe 30. You guys want to taste? Just leave that to sit for 20-30 minutes. Once you have a color that you're satisfied with, you can go ahead and pull them out. And when you're rinsing, I just like to work the water from hot to cold. And then when it runs clear and there's no dye left, you know you're done. Okay, so I took my pillows out of the dye and I actually really like the color, but I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not my best dye job, but I'm gonna tell you how to avoid that. All right, so you see how there are some splotches on here? That's because I didn't mix up the fabric while I was working with it enough. So these are like air pockets that the dye didn't get to it. So when you're dyeing, just make sure you're really spreading apart the fabric and making sure that the dye can get to the fabric. But all in all, I'm pretty satisfied with the color itself, regardless of a little bit of splotchiness. And one of my favorite things about making art is if no one's gonna see it, it doesn't matter. So what I'm gonna do first is go through each pillow and pick the side that's the best. And then the side that's not so great will just be the back. Where's the tape? The way I'm gonna do this is I'm just gonna take a little piece of masking tape and mark the side that I don't want. Okay, so now that we have our pillows dyed, I'm gonna show you 3 different ways to kind of zhuzh them up and give them a little bit of personality. To give these pillows a little life, we're gonna use some cream colored yarn, which I have 2 big things of Woolies Thick and Quick. It's by Lion brand. All right, guys. Let's talk about pom-poms. Okay, so for this one, we're just gonna do pom-poms because pom-poms can make the ugliest pillow cool. So there are a few ways to make pom-poms. They make these like cool pom-pom makers, but let's say you don't have access to those. Do it the old school way. You're gonna take a piece of cardboard, And I'm just gonna cut it open because we just need 2 sheets of the cardboard. And I'm just gonna trace a circle. And you want that circle to be roughly the same size of the pom-pom that you want to make. So I went ahead and cut those out, and then once you have 2 layers, you cut a hole in the middle so it kind of starts to look like a donut. And I'm just gonna start to thread it in the middle of that circle. And you're just gonna keep wrapping until you can't anymore. Then you're gonna take your scissors and you're gonna slip them right in between the pieces of cardboard, right in there in that donut. And you're gonna start to cut. And once you have them all cut, the cardboard should kind of hold the strings in place as you thread a longer piece of string in between the cardboard and then tie a knot. And do it tight, and that way it'll pom-pom up. All right, that pom-pom's looking a little crazy, but it's okay. You just want to give it a nice trim and try to keep it even around the whole thing. And make sure your scissors are sharp. It's going to make a world of difference. To attach the poms, I'm going to cut a hole in each corner of the pillow, and then I'm going to thread the longer strings through and then tie it on there. Oh my gosh, you guys, so cute. Okay, it's time for texture. So I'm gonna crochet, but without a hook. I'm just gonna use my hands. So I tied these together, and I'm gonna put my fingers in here, and I'm gonna take this and make an X. And then I'm gonna pinch the X and bring it through so it's a slip knot. See how it's like wrapped around like that? And then with my fingers, I'm just gonna keep reaching through, pinching, and pulling through. Reaching through, pinching, pulling through. And you just wanna kind of make sure that you're keeping the same tension on this yarn the whole time. That's gonna give you a consistent chain, but it'll come with a little bit of practice. So you're just gonna keep reaching through, pinching, reaching through, pinching. It's occurring to me as I'm doing this that you could just braid it and it would look pretty much the same. So if that's more your jam, go for it. Okay, so now that I have all of this yarn made, what I'm gonna do is do 2 semicircles kind of like this, and I'm not gonna measure it because I hate measuring. I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna fold it in half. Cool. And now, pot please. Thank you. And I'm just gonna trace the pot. And now I'm just going to glue this on. And I'm gonna start by kind of tucking the end of the knot underneath and gluing that on first. And then I'm just gonna follow the line that I drew with hot glue and stick my yarn on. Once I had that first curve on, I went ahead and just kind of eyeballed the other 2. And then when I got to the side of the pillow, I just kind of tied a knot, snipped it off, and then hid the knot underneath the little braid. I kept going with the same design on the other side, but you could really do whatever you want with this project. Keep it fun. I didn't want to say anything too soon, but now seeing this pillow done, I'm pretty sure it needs some tassels. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I just set up 2 clamps. I'm gonna make 2 tassels at a time. And so the tassels will get cut right here, so I'm looking for them to be about 4 inches. So I set up a couple clamps. You can use hand clamps or even like legs of a chair if you don't have clamps. I'm gonna take 2 balls of yarn. You can use 1 at a time, doesn't really matter, but I'm gonna use 2 to make it go a little faster. Oh boy. Gonna wrap that around there. Just gonna wrap both strands around each clamp. And I'm just gonna keep going till I feel like there's enough on there to make a tassel. All right, and now I'm just gonna kind of wrap this around the end so it stays put. You're gonna take some string. I'm gonna slide one end of this yarn through and pull it over here. And I'm gonna tie this in a knot. And do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so these are the strings that you're gonna tie the tassels onto stuff with. So what I'm gonna do next is take some yarn and I'm gonna tie, say I'm gonna do a full knot. And then I'm gonna leave a tail long enough to wrap this thing. So mine's like a yard long. And what I'm gonna do is take this short tail and I'm just gonna fold it and leave it with a little loop. And I'll show you why in a second. So now I'm just gonna start to wrap this tassel. And then when I have enough wrapped, I'm just gonna pull it through this loop and pull the loop away. And that's gonna tuck the end up into there. And then you can trim both of them without it showing. So you're gonna wrap both sides and then you're just gonna cut it right down the middle. I'm gonna attach the tassels the same way I did the pom-poms. Just cut a little hole, thread the long strings through, and then tie it on. Okay, now that's a good looking pillow. All right. Relax. Okay. Stop. All right. Let's get creative. For this one, I kind of just winged it. I used my glue gun to freehand a flower, and then I just kind of glued the yarn to my drawing. You can really get creative on this one because you can draw whatever you want to fit your style. And if it helps to draw it out in pencil first, you can do that, or you can go ahead and download a picture off the internet and transfer it onto the pillow. My big tips on this one would be to just make sure that the ends of where the yarn is cut are glued down securely, because you always run the risk of them kind of fraying. It might also be worth going through from the inside of the pillow and actually sewing the yarn drawing on from the inside. But for now, I'm just going to leave it how it is and see how it goes. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you had fun and that you're inspired to do this at home yourselves. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them in the comments section below. And hey, if you try this at home, tag me on Instagram @Justine.Silva. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.